from WSYR TV Syracuse. Now, 11 non-stop minutes of news.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rod Wood. Bill Cosby has been found guilty on all charges and now faces possibly the rest of his life in prison. Here's ABC's Maggie Rulli with the latest from outside the courthouse in Norristown, Pennsylvania.
A guilty verdict for Bill Cosby after an emotionally charged case that portrayed Cosby as both a serial rapist and a victim of the outrage generated by the Me Too movement. The jury of 7 men and 5 women have come to their unanimous decision.
Guilty, guilty, guilty!
The 80-year-old comedian was found guilty on all 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault related to drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constant, a former Temple University employee, at his Pennsylvania home in 2004. When the verdict was read, Cosby hung his head, later lashing out and cursing at the district attorney when he tried to have him sent straight to prison. Cosby's team says this isn't the end.
We don't think Mr. Cosby's guilty of anything, and the fight is not over.
One big difference in this trial, jurors were allowed to hear from 5 additional Cosby accusers, the prosecution claiming they show Cosby had a predatory pattern. But in closing arguments, Cosby's defense team said all of the accusers fabricated their stories for money, fame, or attention, going on to blast the Me Too movement, describing it as mob mentality primarily based on emotion and anger. Today, some of those accusers who testified say they feel like the system is backing them up at last.
We are vindicated, we are validated.
This jury has shown that what the Me Too movement is saying is that women are worthy of being believed.
We're told that when the verdict was read in court, many of the accusers burst out into tears of joy. Now Bill Cosby faces up to 30 years in prison, essentially a life sentence for the 80-year-old comedian. Maggie Rulli, ABC News, Norristown, Pennsylvania.
The parents of Otto Warmbier have filed a wrongful death lawsuit against North Korea over the death of their son. 22-year-old Otto Warmbier was detained by the North beginning in January 2016 and held for a year and a half. He was returned to his family in June of last year. Warmbier was in a non-responsive state and had severe brain damage. He died not long after coming home. The Washington Post reports that the Warmbier family is being represented by McGuire Woods and that a lead attorney in the case, Richard Cullen, also represents Vice President Mike Pence.
Well, here's your first look at the weather. After a slow start, we got sunshine out late this afternoon. It's been clear this evening, have that 8 o'clock sunset. By the way, as you take a look at lows for tonight with the clear skies, I think you're going to see temperatures drop into the 30s here. Here's what you can expect now the next couple of days. Again, showers are going to return on Friday. The best bet's going to be south and east of Syracuse. Going to have to kind of grin and bear it this weekend. Cool 50s with showers here Saturday, possibly mixing in with some snow. And yes, we still have a warm-up coming for next week. I think we've got a shot at 80 degrees, so some snow to 80s. We'll talk more about that in the complete forecast coming up in just a bit. Rod?
Jim, thank you. We've heard from hundreds of viewers on what affects them most, and we've already begun finding answers for one of the most popular questions this week. Is the Madison County 911 Center merging with Onondaga County's 911? News Channel 9's Andrew Donovan is in Madison County answering one of your stories tonight.
In the future, there's a chance if someone in Madison County has an emergency and calls 911, their call will go here, and they'll hear someone from Onondaga County on the other end of the line.
Well, you have call centers all over the world. People call from all over the world. And I got thinking about last night, what does New York City do? What does Los Angeles County do? You know, those counties are and the city are mammoth, you know, as big as central New York. So what do they do? You know, I think that's got to be part of the study.
But a study is all it is right now, the chair of the Madison County Board of Supervisors stresses, and that's if the county is awarded a grant to pay for the study.
We'll see what it says, see what it recommends. Maybe they'll come back and say you guys are running efficiently as you can, don't do anything.
Right now, the 911 Center is located inside the Madison County Public Safety Building. It costs about $900,000 out of the county budget, which pays for about 20 employees and a lot of equipment.
When we shed our public health nurses 10 years ago, we made sure that who bought our unit employed everybody. We made sure they all had jobs. That's a concern. And that would, I'm sure, all play into it.
Is that something you'd look at for the 911 Center if you decided to?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're not into just throwing people out in the cold and unemploying them people.
But even at this early stage, some are coming out against it.
Some understand and some don't understand. I think it's a kind of turf war with emergency folks. You know, they all have their own deals going on, and if they don't understand something, it tends to rile them up.
For now, the chair says it's county government doing its job, trying to save taxpayers money. In Wampsville, Andrew Donovan, News Channel 9.
And remember, you can contact your stories team anytime with a question or concern. Just call 315-446-9900 or send an email to yourstories@localsyr.com. 20 years to life, that is the sentence for the man who killed Akeem Hudgens in December 2016. Corey Slattery admitted to luring Hudgens to his apartment in Cicero before strangling and then dismembering him. He then burned the body. Connie Ingoldby, a second suspect in the case, is serving 1 to 3 years in prison for hindering prosecution. The man convicted of the 1995 kidnapping of Heidi Allen awaits his fate now as his case is in the hands of 7 judges. Gary Thibodeau's case is in the New York State Court of Appeals, and News Channel 9's Jeff Kulikowski was there and tells us what we can expect from New York's highest court.
Gary Thibodeau is hoping that the Court of Appeals will finally overturn his 1995 conviction for kidnapping Heidi Allen. Not his first appeal, but his last within the legal system of New York State.
Lawyers for Gary Thibodeau say based on new evidence revealed in a 2015 hearing, Thibodeau's conviction should be thrown out. Lisa People says a lower court judge used a flawed legal analysis and erroneous facts in refusing to overturn Thibodeau's conviction, despite new evidence pointing to other possible kidnappers.
I would argue, Your Honor, that it would be admissible under the defense right to present a defense and his due process right.
But before the court can even look at the substantive issues regarding this new evidence, they will consider if they even have the legal standing to review the case at all.
I might agree with you, but I'm not sure that's the question, because I'm not sure it's our place to second guess that.
The reviewability is really a procedural question that if we were to win on that, wins it for the whole case for us.
The only thing our family has ever wanted was Heidi, and to know where Heidi is. A court case doesn't determine where my sister is.
Heidi's sister here today for the latest chapter in the legal drama playing out the past few years, including Thibodeau's appeal before the appellate division in Rochester last year.
Heidi is the true victim here, and she continues to get lost, so that's why I keep advocating for her, because she's the victim.
Judge King and the appellate division reached the right conclusions. Again, this court was asking the right questions, looking at the reliability of the testimony. So I'm hopeful, but I don't want to be overly confident.
If a jury had heard the newly discovered evidence that had been presented to the lower court, Gary Thibodeau would be home with his family today.
Gary Thibodeau, as is normally the situation with cases here at the Court of Appeals, not in attendance for today's proceeding, now waits in his prison cell to learn his fate once and for all. At the Court of Appeals in Albany, Jeff Kulikowski, News Channel 9.
Now, new information tonight on that crash that killed Whitesboro police officer Kevin Crosley. Investigators believe Crosley attempted to make a U-turn on Oriskany Boulevard. He was likely driving more than 70 miles per hour at the time of the crash and was not wearing a seatbelt. The Onondaga County medical examiner says multiple traumatic injuries were the cause of death. Police in California say they've arrested a serial killer who they hunted for more than 4 decades. That man, 72-year-old Joseph James D'Angelo, originally a native of Bath in New York's Steuben County, according to a 1973 story in an Exeter, California newspaper. He was profiled on the front page back then, detailing his background as a Navy veteran, a graduate of Folsom Senior High School, and a native of Bath, New York. Dubbed the Golden State Killer, D'Angelo is linked to at least a dozen homicides, 45 rapes, and more than 100 burglaries across California in the 1970s and 80s. More than 50,000 motor vehicles illegally pass school buses every day in New York State alone. That is why the New York State Bus Contractors Association is raising awareness about keeping kids safe through its Operation Safe Stop Education and Enforcement Day. It's meant to remind everyone of the need to stop behind a school bus and calls on lawmakers to crack down on drivers who illegally pass buses. From your local election headquarters, State Senator John DeFrancisco confirming today he will not seek a 14th term in the state Senate. Just yesterday, the senator announced he would not continue actively campaigning for the Republican nomination in the race for governor. He's not dropping out of that race entirely, though, just hoping committee members reconsider their support for Dutchess County Executive Mark Molinaro. Ford automaker making a big shakeup to its business. Customers will no longer be able to buy a Ford Fiesta, Taurus, Fusion, and Focus in the U.S. Ford officials say the only passenger car models that will stay in production are the Mustang and the upcoming Ford Focus Active. That's a hatchback-like vehicle set to make its debut next year. Ford will, however, continue to offer all its trucks, SUVs, and crossovers. In sports, the Crunch look ahead while they wait to find out who their next opponent will be. The Crunch dispatched the Rochester Amerks 3-0 in their best-of-5 game series. They now wait while Utica and Toronto battle it out. The Marlies lead the Comets 2-1. They continue their series tomorrow night at the Odd in Utica. The Crunch, however, say they'll take the rest.
Very happy the way we prepare for this first round. Very happy the way we played and compete. Very happy for Connor. I think he was the best goalie on the ice here tonight. So no, overall it's good.
Now the Crunch will face either Utica or Toronto in the next round. That series continues tomorrow night with the Marlies up 2-1.
You're watching News Channel 9 11 at 11 with Rod Wood, Christy Casciano, Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Jim Teskey with Central New York's most accurate forecast, and Stephen Fonte's Sports. News Channel 9, the local station.